All right, so I started this year, or at least the midpoint of the year, with the intention of reading one Stephen King book a month. I failed miserably at that when I got to The Stand. And in my defense, it is a massive tome. It is far too long, and I am very, very bored with it. So I'm waiting for a copy audiobook from the library to come in because there's no way in hell I'm going to finish it unless I get an audiobook. So that is not going to be on this list because I have not finished it yet. I'm barely like 10% in. But I do want to give a list in order of my favorite Stephen King that I have read so far. I guess we'll start at my least favorite and go to my favorites. So my least favorite is going to be Billy Summers. I have a review on this channel. I will not be talking about it again. I hated every page of this book. If I was not reading it for the Goodreads Choice Awards, I would not have finished it. And honestly, I'm upset that I wasted my time reading it. I don't care that that's me. Next book's going to be 11/22/63. Another reason I hated Billy Summers is because it reminded me of this book, yet somehow Billy Summers was worse. This is obnoxious character goes back into the past and is complaining that the other person didn't do enough research before he sends this guy back into the past, and it's like, well, why'd you get the numbers for like horse races and whatever winnings instead of like lottery tickets? I'm like, well, sir, you've not gone back to the present a couple times. Why didn't you get the answer or the winning lottery tickets for this past timeline? Regardless, I hated this main character so much. This is not a horror book. Also, it is a romance story, and I have it filed as romance in my Goodreads, and I refuse to change that. He has gone back in time to stop the assassination of JFK and just alter the course of history. I love the premise and idea of this book. I hate everything else. The assassination plot is maybe 5% of this book. The rest is historical, self-insert romance, and all that kind of drama. Next, we have Salem's Lot. Yes, this classic is my third least favorite Stephen King. I hated every single character in this book. I was rooting for the vampires to kill them all, and I get building up the atmosphere and side characters, so when the travesty, intense death scenes that happened, I don't want to give spoilers, so everything that happens by the end of the book, I should feel bad for these characters and what happened to them, except I hated them all. I felt nothing for any of them. Again, I was rooting for the vampires. This is also what I will consider shock horror, so a character will say or do something just extreme, and out of nowhere, out of the blue, but again, I felt nothing for them. The Shining is going to be my next Stephen King book. And once upon a time, I hated this book. I hated how drawn out slow it was, and at the time I didn't care about the characters. I say this when I read it in high school. I recently read it again this year, and my reread went so much better, so nicer. I love this book. I love the characters. I love the atmosphere. I love the hotel. The pacing still had its issues, but the character work explored in this book was fantastic. If you're not a fan of Stephen King, then I probably wouldn't recommend this as a start. But if you are someone who enjoys just good character work, then yes, because it doesn't matter how slow the plot is, because I would make these characters spend pages making a sandwich because I love these characters. And my God, the over-descriptive writing is a complaint, and I am surprised we don't have like 7 pages on how they make a sandwich. But I still love it. I still greatly enjoyed it. Next is Dolores Claiborne, and I really loved this book. It is a story that starts off with a woman who is being accused of killing her employer. She was like a housekeeper assistant kind of person. And essentially, she tells the police, no, I did not kill my employer, but I did kill my husband. Let me tell you how I did it. And it goes into her life history and her history with her family and her relationship with her husband and her daughter and her kids and the employer, and I loved everything. I picked this book up because my coworker has it like tattooed on her arm. And pretty much, if you love a book enough to get it tattooed on you, I'm going to have to check it out. It. I love and hate it in equal amounts, but I think my intense love for the town of Derry overrides every criticism that I currently have. It is currently rated at about a 2 or 3 on my Goodreads, and that will change upon reread. I just need to actually reread it. And oh my god, I would read a textbook on the town of Derry happily, cover to cover, a history textbook on just the town of Derry. I love this world. I love this place. I love the history of Pennywise. I loved the relationships between the kids. There's a little psychopath that's introduced that came out of nowhere, and I'm like, okay, we're doing this now. The only issue I have was the amount of sexism, racism, homophobia, graphic discussions concerning children and their sexual urges, which I get is a thing, like prepubescence and hormones and all that. I just don't enjoy reading about it. It was very well written. It was just not enjoyable for me to read. So if I had to knock down a star for every big red flag in this book, it would have 0 stars. I was very uncomfortable and I did not enjoy reading these scenes, but at the same time, I loved Derry. I loved other aspects. I loved other character moments, and I can't give it a negative review. I just need to reread it. I need to reread it now with my love of Derry and see how much it overrides these other scenes. Pet Sematary is where I recommend everyone and anyone start with Stephen King. Even if you're not a Stephen King fan, even if you're not even a horror fan, I recommend Pet Sematary to everybody. This might not be your favorite Stephen King book, but I feel it'd be hard pressed to find someone who genuinely hates this book. It is a character study. It is so well done. The plot is engaging and is just an exploration on grief itself. And I cannot sing its praises enough. You know the plot of Pet Sematary. If you find a burial ground, whatever you buried there will come back to life, and sometimes dead is better. It is heartbreaking. It is just cold, and it is not happy at all, but I love this book. I strongly recommend it. I'm looking forward to rereading this one. And here Stephen King really becomes amazing, because when I first read Pet Sematary, I was convinced nothing could get better than Pet Sematary. And then I read Misery. And I'm like, this is everything I ever wanted out of life and out of a book. It is such an engaging, such a perfect read. There were scenes in here that physically hurt my soul. And it is about an author who is kidnapped by his #1 fan and being held hostage and forced to write a sequel to a book where he killed off the main character to end the series. And he's just like, how the hell do I do this? And oh my god, I love Misery. I love almost every page of Misery, but not every page, because it does include chapters for the new story that he's writing, and it's good. It serves a narrative purpose, it serves a thematic purpose, but I guess those pages I could have done without. And then you have the love of my life, Carrie, where I would not change a single word of this book. I love Carrie White. The movie does not do this book justice in any sense of the word. This is not a horror book. This is a tragedy. This is the most lovely character of Carrie, who's had such a hard time being ostracized, being bullied, being abused by her mother, the isolation she feels, yet the strength that she has to go forward and want a better life for herself. And I want nothing more than for her to have a good, happy life, but you know she's not going to get it, and feeling the dread as what you know is about to happen slowly be unveiled and revealed to her. It is heartbreaking and so sad, and I want nothing more for these characters to have a good life, and it doesn't happen for them. And none of that is a spoiler, because even through pop culture knowledge, you know the story of Carrie. And then throughout the book, you're getting chapters of an investigation exploring the events. So you know from the beginning there was a tragedy. This many people died. This person has so long left to live. Oh my god, I don't know, dramatic irony or something. I love this book. Binged it in a day. I want to reread this so bad. Why do I have so many new books that I have to read and I can't just reread all these amazing ones? So those are my favorite Stephen King books that I have read. There's a lot high on my TBR that I really want to get into. I just got to finish The Stand first, and quite frankly, it is very hard. All right, I will talk to you later. Bye.